be annoying to answer, but like, did
Who's
you
running
play
this
the
interview?
video game?
Him, and I'm so happy about it. No. Exactly.
Did you play the video game or like?
I played it after. I didn't know it existed when I got the job, but I found out immediately what it was because it was such a big deal. My nephews were teenagers, are teenagers, and they freaked out. And then I saw. I always knew that there was so much creative ground being broken within the world of video games. I had known that was happening, but I just didn't have the discipline or the skill to, thank God.
To go along.
Thank God, because I wouldn't, I'm capable of a real, give me a reason to not leave the house, for sure.
Yeah, that game is a good reason too. So you played it after you filmed it? Or
I tried to play it, I can't play it.
Okay.
What game is that?
It's called The Last of Us.
Is it out now?
Adapted it into,
oh my God,
a few years
check
ago,
it out.
yeah.
Because I got sucked into a video.
Which
game,
one?
you know, Tron.
Tron, of course.
Man,
One of the original video game adaptations.
Right, man.
That movie came out when there were arcades in the cinemas.
Yeah.
Are there still arcades in the
We
cinemas?
shot it 70 millimeter, black and white, all hand tinted by these ladies in Korea. The director, Steven Lisberger, who wrote it and everything, first time, that was his first movie. He lined the sound stages with video games.
Yeah.
You know, the first time director, because you can imagine everybody's like, get to work.
Yeah.
You know. I'm prepping, man. I'm prepping for my scene.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, we'll have to,
I grew up in the arcade generation. Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that? Pinball. Well, that's pinball.
Alright guys, well it's Sunday and it's time for another weekly roundup in the world of video game adaptations. But before we get into that, don't forget to like and subscribe. And just before the video, I showed a little clip of a recent roundtable interview. The Hollywood Reporter does these really awesome roundtables that I actually enjoy watching with actors or directors and writers, and they're actually really enjoyable to watch for me personally, who loves learning about this stuff. But there's a little clip in there where Jeff Bridges and pedropascal talk about video games and whatnot. It's fun because Jeff Bridges was in Tron like back in the 80s, and at first when he says this little joke, no one even really gets it. I don't think they still get it, even though what he says is literally, I got sucked into a video game, because that's what happened in the movie. Though Pedro also says it's the original video game adaptation, which isn't true because it was a movie and then they made it into some arcade games. So I don't think that counts. But it's still a fun little clip with Kieran Culkin and Pedro Pascal and Jeff Bridges having a little chat about video games. But there is an article on Deadline where they talk with Chief Francesca Orsi on the finale of Succession, which I don't watch, so I don't know. Maybe I should, because I keep hearing how good it is. I mean, it's HBO, so I'm sure it's good. But they talk about The Last of Us and how the WGA strike is affecting things. Yeah, so in this article, it's actually a pretty long article, and it focuses on each specific of their shows that are still being worked on. And there's a section about The Last of Us and the season 2 and its big swing, which is apparently whatever they're taking. The interviewer asked Orsi about her original reaction when she realized she was getting pitched a zombie show. Craig didn't lead with that. While there's a big entertainment factor that's tied to the zombie nature of the show and the story, he really focused on the sort of love story, the relationship between Pedro and Bella, Joel and Ellie, and exploring family and the ways in which the surrogate father that Ellie becomes to Joel in light of the tragic death of his biological daughter is what I think grabbed us most. And it was the profound, deeper exploration of love and family that it was after that had us all leaning in. So we all know The Last of Us has been a breakout hit, setting new ratings highs each week and driving the pulp culture conversations. Of course with episode 3, which everyone went cray about. But the producers already have teased more, bigger, and more elaborate zombies next season. Additionally, there will be a couple of new pieces of casting which I can't get into, and of course, there isn't much that we can get into on The Last of Us, given that Craig can't really initiate in any meaningful way from a writing or casting standpoint because of the strike. But he and Neil have a good sense of what is of what he's going to be taking on. We'll be moving the show from Calgary to Vancouver. Sad face, because I live in Calgary. All I can say is he's taken a big swing from both an entertainment standpoint related to the clickers, but also just a more nuanced, complex character development between our characters, Joel, Ellie, and beyond. And I know who this other character is, but I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But as someone who played 2, I know what they're talking about. So 2 meaning The Last of Us Part 2, which I actually like better than the first one. Given the series mythology and heavily serialized nature, was The Last of Us pitched for a plan of for a number of seasons? Well, we already talked about that, but I think Craig and Neil are still figuring out where they're going to come to an end. Or she said, we have loosely heard that there will be a season 3 idea for the series, but at this point we're taking one season at a time. There's no guarantee at this point that we'll have a season 3, but I know that they have a vision for season 3. Whether that lends itself to more seasons, I don't know. Well, that's interesting because in like a earlier news I reported, like probably even a year ago, they were talking about multiple seasons, beyond 3 seasons, and I couldn't understand how they could even go beyond 2. I mean, they could stretch Game 2 into 2 seasons, but after that, I don't know how they would. I really don't, but it's possible. Who knows? In other adaptation news, also coming from a Deadline article, the actor Matt Berry is in talks to join Jason Momoa in Warner Brothers' Minecraft film. Matt Berry from What We Do in the Shadows is in negotiations to star in the Minecraft movie that Jared Hess will direct. Okay, did I know that? I don't know, but the fact that Jared Hess is directing it kind of already makes me more interested in it, just like with Gran Turismo. I'm more interested in it because of the fact that Neil Blomkamp's directing it. So if Jared Hess is doing a Minecraft movie, that means it could be a lot wackier than, it could be with a different director. Details on the film's plot and Barry's role are under wraps, but the live-action pick adapts the Mojang Sandbox game, which is the highest selling of all time. It's scheduled to hit theaters on April 4th, 2025. It's crazy they had the exact specific date when they're still not even starting making the movie yet. So it's like 2 years from now. 2 years they're going to have it come out. The Minecraft film hails from Vertical, co-financier Legendary, Mojang, Microsoft, and Momoa's On the Roam. Producers on the project include Roy Lee, John Berg, Mary Parent. I don't know these people. Momoa, and then whatever. Anyways, back to Barry. He's best known for his BAFTA and Critics' Choice Award nominated turn as vampire Laszlo Cravensworth in FX hit comedy What We Do in the Shadows, which I haven't actually seen, but it is an adaptation from a movie that Taika Waititi did before he became extremely obnoxious. What We Do in the Shadows returns for its 5th season, July 13th. Other notable credits for the British actor and comedian and writer includes BBC's Great Expectations, as well as Channel 4's Year of the Rabbit and Toast of London, the latter of which he co-created. So, that's basically, in the past week or two, the only real thing that's been announced new for anything game related. Alright, well, back to some more Last of Us news on Deadline, but this is a different focus on. They're actually going back to the episode 3, which everyone talks about, the huge big deal of episode 3 and how it handled a relationship between 2 men and how beautiful people liked it and thought it was and whatnot. But It Starts on the Page is actually a Deadline feature which features 10 standout drama series scripts in 2023 Emmy contention. So that means they're saying that this episode of The Last of Us is an Emmy contention, and I'm sure it's going to win a bunch of Emmys, or at least be nominated. It showcases the critical role writers' work plays in a show's success. All materials are submitted before the WGA strike began. The HBO post-apocalyptic drama starring Pedro Pascal and Bellaramsey launched to strong reviews and enthusiastic response from the fans of the video game it's based on. Then episode 3 came along, taking pop culture by storm. It transcended genre to attract audience who never played the game or watched a zombie show and catapulted a 50-year-old Linda Ronstadt song to the top of the music charts. Titled Long, Long Time after Ronstadt's song, the episode hailed as one of the best hours of television in 2023 and possibly ever. Okay, that's a bold statement. It was written by Mason and directed by Peter Hoare. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. It stars Nick Offerman and Mary Bartlett as Bill and Frank, two survivors of the zombie outbreak who find love amid the destruction. Here is the script of episode 3 with an introduction by Mason about what went into writing it and what he hopes viewers take away from watching. The script and the show. The Last of Us is a love story that's not always good news. Love can blind us, move us to violence, harden our hearts to strangers, or paralyze us with grief. But in the world Neil and I built for the show, it was just as important to show how love could still flourish in a positive way. I wanted to explore how two very different kinds of love, the nurturing, generous, and beautifying, as well as the protective and possessive, could exist in balance. Bill and Frank embodied those two kinds of love, and for me, as someone who has been married for over 25 years, it was just as important to portray that kind of love. The lasting, well-worn love that is a product of not merely of attraction or chemistry, but of commitment. My hope is that people will see in Bill and Frank's relationship the victory of honest, achievable, realistic love. Even in Bill and Frank's ending, after all, each of us will end. That's not a failure for any well-lived life, or for any love we share. It's simply the final act of what was hopefully a beautiful play. And if we're lucky, as Bill is, we will leave behind a lesson that inspires others to live as we did. Frank changes Bill for the better. Bill changes Joel for the better. Joel changes Ellie for the better. This is what love can do. I was lucky enough to have a brilliant director and the perfect cast. They all had the greatest respect for the text I wrote, and in turn, I have the greatest respect for the way they brought it to life. And as I said to Nick when I sent him the script, I don't know how to write better than this, so I sure hope you like it. I say the same to you, and thank you so much for reading and watching our show. Yeah, so that's the whole little article, and there's a link in it, so I'll have a link below so you can check out the script if you want. I'm going to read it just because, I'm also into screenwriting a lot, and so far this is the only script of The Last of Us I can find online. So, I'm going to read it. Alright, well that's it for the news of the week of May 22nd to 28th. Not a whole lot of new things, not really anything new being announced really, other than Matt Berry becoming possibly a part of the cast of Minecraft. But check out below, I'm going to have the links to the articles, and if you want to read The Last of Us script like I will, check it out, because I'm sure it's a really great script. But don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching, and don't forget to keep gaming.